believe there is more? If you don't believe there's more, then you got a boring God.
One resolute, praying, believing man or woman today can bring a spiritual awakening to an entire community. Something deep inside of me was calling out to the deep of God. And I said, Lord, there's gotta be more.
Hey, you're listening to the There Is More podcast. This episode is sponsored by Send Me Refuge. Send Me Refuge is a Christian mission organization currently based in Tapachula, Mexico. They reach far beyond simply telling others about Christ. We are all called to serve the nations for Jesus, and that's exactly what Send Me Refuge does. They show the light by equipping others, serving, and by just showing the love of Jesus to all people. There are many different ways to serve with Send Me Refuge, including digging water wells, construction, medical missions, shoe ministry, sewing ministry, food ministry. You name it, they got a way to serve. They also host a vacation Bible school for families in that area. So for more information, if you want to partner with them, if you want to go on a mission trip, if you just want to give some money, go to sendmerefuge.com. Read about their story in the About Us section on their website and how it all got started. I promise you it's an incredible story that needs to be shared. It needs to be heard. Go to sendmerefuge.com.
Welcome to There's More podcast, and we're actually part 2, which will be number 33 for us, episode
That's right.
33.
Episode 33.
But we still have the same guest, and we wanted to just kind of break it up. What a strong and powerful and testimony. So for those of you that watched the first one or didn't get a chance to go back and check it out, and one of the things that I kind of wanted to lead into this next segment is that I've been on a journey over the last couple of weeks of kind of feeling like lost on a map, you know, and you was trying to find your way. But, you know, as we were talking, God said, don't focus on the map, focus on the map maker. Like, I have made the map. Like, when you're walking through journeys, and we're going to get into some things where you've been involved in some leadership and working with marriages. If you are trying to find your north, like, don't focus on that, focus on Jesus, focus on the map maker. And we saw a powerful testimony, but we're actually about to go into a new part. Like, there was purpose through your pain, right? And that's what I've talked to my son about, that purpose. There's purpose in your pain. But what comes out of that is is kingdom mindset. So, Stephen, how are you doing since the last episode, which was a couple minutes ago?
I'm doing really good. Doing absolutely fantastic. We're doing good. The family's good, all that kind of stuff. So
a lot's changed in the last 4 minutes.
There's been a lot. A lot has changed. Brandon, thanks for being with us again, obviously.
Had no clue, by the way, your testimony. Holy cow.
Yeah. I had talked with Andrew. I knew a little bit about it. And
that's strong.
Yeah, I definitely wanted you on the show for sure to share all that, just to see how powerful God is. You know, that's the whole point of this show, is for people to be able to share God's stories. Mm-hmm. And we all have one, and it's incredible just how God has worked in your life and what God brought you out of. And what God is currently doing in your life too now, going from, someone who was living in addiction really, mm-hmm. to, hey, I'm leading men in marriages, and I'm doing the leadership programs and all sorts of stuff like that. So I know you kind of shared with us the episode 32 about kind of what you're doing now and how you got into this leadership stuff. But if you want to go a little bit more deeper into that, and we'd love to discuss it.
Before you do, I saw one of your Facebook posts where
mm-hmm.
you kind of laid this out. I may be throwing you a softball pitch here, but you said you took a moment of faith, made a phone call, and the lady said it was around $5,000. Am I correct?
Yeah.
For you to go through this, is it John Maxwell program? Yeah. And you were like, does it have to be all up front, or no? We can work with you, and you're like, let's do it. So. What led you to that? And let's just slingshot from there.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And just to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying a while ago, and having the opportunity to kind of say, can God use me? Mm-hmm. Well, I am, and I've become more aware of this in the last few years along my journey, is that I am an introvert. And so even though there was something that stirred in me back in 2010 that says, you know what, I'm going to make a difference. I guess it was just growing up playing athletics. It was just that drive in me. Yeah. But I say, to tell my testimony and to be open, I'm going to tell you, man, it is not natural. So if you're watching this or listening and you say, I'm an introvert and I know it, and some people know what that means. And if you don't, that's just you're more reserved, less prone to be around people versus kind of being the bubbly type. Just know that God can still use you too. So, but yeah, so that is a miracle in of itself. But nevertheless, yeah, going back to that. So I kind of, from 2010, I told a story that God was going to use me. And so walked through some career opportunities. I was in the insurance world at the time, in life insurance. It was kind of my where I landed after mortgage industry. And so God had given me an opportunity to go to work for a company building a territory here in Alabama, IT services. And so, did that for 4.5 years. And there was a moment in the beginning that was like, okay, it's the first time I'd actually kind of worked, from home for somebody else, but had that autonomy. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. Maybe this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. 4.5 years later, I realized that was not, because I'm not an IT person. I can do sales. That's my background.
I did it for 10 years. It's terrible.
Yeah, no, I was just, working with, dentists, and I love the dentistry field. My daughter's, she's going to dental school, but
that's awesome.
But nevertheless, in the IT so I was like, okay, what next, God? and so this came about, this opportunity to join the John Maxwell team. So I know John. I've been following John for years, and he's a person of faith, former minister, but he's the leadership guy. He's doing coaching. You can learn how to coach, speak, training. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I mean, speaking, but coaching. I'm like, okay, well, it sounds like something that somebody could make some money at, right? And you could maybe have a positive difference.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had the conversation, and she's like, okay, that's the investment. Cool story. 2011, I'd got an email about the lunch for the John Maxwell team, something that he was not going to do for a long time, but eventually God kind of revealed to him, hey, this is your legacy. So I was on the call, and they said $5,000, and if you invest today, you can come down to my home. And I was like, I'm out, can't do that. But 4 years later, it came back around. I had the opportunity. It was still the biggest investment I'd ever made in me personally. Yeah. And so I did it, and got to break it up in payments. But that began the journey for me, learning how to be a coach, right? What does a coach offer to people? Because let's be honest, growing up in Gardendale, there's not too many people that are going to be, grabbing coaches, executive coaches, that sort of thing. I mean, it's like you're talking to your buddy, you're talking to your pastor. So it was a new world for me.
How long did it take?
Well, it's still taking.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
But yeah, so first couple years, so cool story. So then once I caught the vision, right, then I figured out, okay, how do I let go of my job and then pursue this? And after about 6 months, God said, you're not going to make a move, are you? And I said, I can't. I've got bills to pay. He said, okay, I'll take care of it for you. And boss sends me a text. Hey, meet me at the Starbucks. Hey, we're going in different ways. I said, okay.
Yeah, which way are we going?
Well, yeah, he said we're going that way. You're going that way. So it was over. Yeah. And I was like, okay, that was kind of scary. I mean, you could have maybe give me some advance a month prior before I just dropped my whole bonus and my salary at the beach last week. So
Starbucks, for real. Let's go to Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, right. I could have put a little bit of money aside, but it's all good.
That's right.
But it was one of those God winks that God's like, okay, you've got purpose for your life, and so that began my journey of doing coaching and learning what speaking was all about. I still did a few things on the side. Still, had some opportunities to still work in the insurance field. Yeah. For consistency and income. But really, it's been a journey the last 5 years to learn what coaching is about and learn how to kind of put a presentation together, speak. I got certified in DISC, personality behavior. Yeah. So I think I've learned more about me than but it's helped me in that sense and kind of understand how people are wired and really there's a biblical aspect of that.
I'm an SDIC, by the way, and I don't know how. Yeah. But when I took that test, I was working with a company, and they said, hey, we want everybody to take the test, and I did. And the lady who did the class, she came up to me afterwards, and she was like, is everything okay in your life? And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, this is one of the rarest forms of, like, when these are two so close together, I was like, are you telling me I'm bipolar?
Like, what's going on here? Yeah.
And she was like, no, I'm not saying that. But normally when people hit this, there's something going on in their life. And I'm like, my wife's about to have a child.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Other than that, we're good. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my experience with that personality.
It's great, and again, you have to let people know it's not something to label you or put you in a box.
Yeah.
But I'm an SD as well.
Okay.
That kind of more reserved person as opposed to the high eyes that you hear is you're just out front.
Yeah.
But you just got to know that if you surround yourself with all eyes, you're just not going to get anything done, especially if you're one too. So, but it's been cool. But here's the thing. The whole time I'm like, this is great, God. This is something this is cool.
Yeah.
Partnered with John Maxwell Team, partnered with John Maxwell. This is cool. It's a good spot. But there's more. Mm-hmm. There's more. Like there's this, this is, because some people would come partner with the John Maxwell Team and go, hey, this is the rest of my life, and I'm gonna do leadership. I'm gonna have an impact, and that is awesome because it is a huge deal when you're training people in leadership, communication. But God continued to, I'm like, okay, what is it? Like, what is it? What does it look like? What am I here for? And so, within the last year through COVID, had an opportunity to kind of slow down, right? Mm-hmm. And so God began to reveal to me, and he'd been kind of stirring in Candy, my wife, also for a while, that marriage ministry was in the future. Yeah. And what that looked like, we didn't know. But there was a reason, I was investing in getting training on, speaking and training and what those look like, events and things like that. But that actually, so, okay, well, that's going to happen for us. What about me in the meantime? And within the last year, God's revealed that, hey, there are men that are walking through what you walked through when she said, I don't want to be married anymore.
Yeah.
Christian men. Mm-hmm. And you remember what that was like, and it breaks you as a man, especially if you've got, multiple years under your belt. You've got kids, because then you start thinking, well, I'm not going to be there when I wake up. That was my biggest fear. It's what I cried my eyes out. Like, I'm not going to get to see my girls. This is 15 years ago. My girls were little. Like, I'm not going to be able to be there when they wake up. I'm not going to see them but every other weekend. I can't accept that. And there are men that's the reality for them. And he's like, I'm going to use you to minister these men, because if they don't fully understand of the circumstance, the dynamics, they'll lose themselves. They will lose themselves. They'll if there's any chance of reconciliation and restoration, they're going to lose it because of how they behave through it. But there's a model that in Christ, he said it, that we can be above that. So that's where I'm at today, and it's really it's really a joy to be able to get to do this and minister in this way.
And you, obviously some of the things that you've gone through and you shared with us in your testimony, especially in your marriage. Yeah. You've been through a lot, and thankfully, your wife was able to say, hey, I'm going to kind of see this through too, and stick this out and see how God can transform, our marriage. And what do you tell guys right now, the ones that are out there that maybe you're struggling with some form of addiction, or maybe you're not struggling with addiction, but maybe your marriage is just not good right now. It's in a bad place, and if it's communication with your wife or whatever it is, maybe it's just in a bad place. What do you tell those guys that are going through that right now?
Yeah. So I have like a 3-part framework that, when I work with guys, it's it's really simple. It's not earth shattering, but the first step really is to step back. And that is assess the situation, right? Because, until you survey the landscape and you're just going 90-0, you don't know what's going on. Yeah. So take a breath, step back, and take inventory of what you have, and that may mean gratitude, because depending upon the dynamic, whether or not you want to walk, or she said she wants to walk, or whatever. Hold on for a moment. If you've got children, you've got family, especially if, and I say especially, regardless of whether you're a Christian or not, if you are a Christian, obviously that there are biblical grounds. They don't get adhered to too often, unfortunately. But that's one of the things also that I help walk through, man, is that, okay, let's look at, if you're talking divorce, what is the biblical grounds for that?
Yeah.
And so that is just really to assess the situation. And then once you step back and you take inventory, you can step forward and start making strides, whether it's you walked away and she wants to stay married and you really do deep down, you can start like, okay, taking inventory and assessing, what do I need to do? How do I get that feeling back? Because I've had guys tell me, I just don't have that feeling. I don't love her. Well, you know what? It's like the old saying, feelings are fickle, right? I mean, it's not about a feeling. It's about, it's about doing things on a daily basis.
That's good.
And what I found and what I believe to be 100% truth is that, I'd heard this, I think the closer you get to Jesus, the closer you get to your wife, assuming that, you both are in godly alignment. And that is so true. So like, how are you pursuing Jesus? We all want our daughters and sons for their spouses to be in alignment, right with Christ, just the same, because we know when you're out of alignment, it's left up to chance. Yeah. So start taking steps forward. And that includes, what is your prayer life like? What is your relationship with Jesus like? And they may never have one.
Yeah.
Well, let's start. And then step up. And that's where you're going to the next level and you are doing things that you've never done before. And your spouse may be saying he's a different person. That's where I don't even recognize him. That's one of the cool things for me is that, my goal is to, look in the mirror and go, Brandon, I don't even recognize you. Like, I recognize me. I know what I used to be, but you didn't know my testimony, Brandon. We've known each other for a little while. And so that's where, and when your spouse starts shifting and saying, I don't even recognize him, and I like that person, that's where you want to be.
Yeah, that's really incredible stuff. And also, I would venture out to say this too, and Brent, you might be able to speak to this too as well. With Brent, leads a bunch of guys at the fire station. But you said one of the first steps is to assess. Just take a step back, and I would even say this. You're probably, even if your marriage is going good, you still probably want to take a step back to assess at times. And that's probably something you guys do at the fire station too, or you do at least. I know you probably get to the point where you're like, hey, we have to, regardless of if things are going good, we still have to always be assessing and always kind of take a step back and look at the bigger picture, because your mind can get wrapped up in so much, and so much of just the daily routine or the daily stuff that you have to take care of and things like that.
Yeah, I want to echo something that Pastor Jonathan Fox says, or he said to me. He said, you guys are first responders, not first reactors. So I think there's moments in life to where we do have to take a step back and not react, because a lot of times our reactions are off of emotions and off of feelings. So the way we respond, the way we respond in the fire service is off of how we trained in protocols. If we just reacted, we would be reacting the way people call 911 in a panic in their day of an emergency, because it is an emergency. Yeah. But we have to respond differently, because if we show up and we're chaos, we're just going to add more chaos to it. So for us as men to take a step back, one that also shows us is that we need more than us, right? Because I think a lot of times we're going to say, and by default, I think most men will say we're fixers. Yeah. Like, if something goes wrong in the house, usually we fix it, right? So the issue comes is when it's something that's out of our control and we're like, we can't fix this. So we have to take a step back and say, all right, Lord, I need you in this, because there's nothing I can do.
Brandon, what do you say to guys who feel like their marriage is great, is going good? What do you say to those guys? I'm sure there's still some tips out there that you can give,
especially getting coaching in a healthy,
absolutely.
Someone's always said you take your car in for an oil change, but there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. But you just still have maintenance, right?
And that's it, bro. That is it. Because I'm telling you, I'm actually walking with a close friend who, was really a mentor of mine early on, a few years back in the spiritual realm, and in ministry, and kind of on the surface, just life is great and successful, and walking through some struggles with them right now. And one thing it is revealed to me, and and even Candy and I recently had a situation where we're like, okay, wait a second. A little situation in the kitchen around food turned to 24 hours. I'm like, wait a second, this is not where we're supposed to be. We need to have, and this is what I'll say.
Yeah.
We all have blind spots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
you're
good.
right.
In our marriage, even when things look good, there's a connotation around counseling. Even though the Bible said something about there's wisdom in a multitude
Yes.
of wise counselors, right?
That's right.
It's not just when you're in trouble; it's at any time. And so, but the situation with my buddy, it's proof that you can, on the surface, things look great, and we're good. You good? I'm good. But underneath, there's an infection growing because there's things that are not being discussed. There's things that the enemy has planted in us if we've allowed it to, and they've taken root.
Yeah.
And it may take years to manifest, but when it manifests, it's ugly.
It is ugly.
So this is what I would say: get your oil changed. If you ever, as a Christian spiritual leader of the home, if you ever get a sense from the Holy Spirit that there's a need, don't hesitate. Counseling sessions with Christian counselors, maybe $100, $150. If you did that once a month for 90 days, what an investment.
Yeah.
And you and you gave the opportunity, say, okay, what's on your mind? She may say things that she's never conveyed to you.
Yeah.
And been open about, so it's worth it. So and it doesn't always have to be a counselor. It could even be a pastor.
Yeah.
But just keep that awareness to know that, it's not everything that meets the eye is what's going on.
Sometimes there's a negative connotation that comes along with counseling.
Absolutely.
Like you're like, oh, well, there's something wrong if I have to go get counseling. No, not necessarily. Like we all need counseling of some form and kind. So you hit the nail on the head.
I look at it as and this is what I told her, and it's it was really honestly a cool place. But I said we need a mediator.
Yeah.
Not just to okay, you get this and you get that. No, we need a mediator to go. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm feeling. What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah, Fox
And
calls it a referee.
That's right. Yeah, and I call it an advocate. But more than anything, someone that can show us our blind spots.
That's good.
Yeah, because when you're a couple, come on, like there's gonna be blind spots.
Yeah.
Even when life is great, grand, and wonderful, and things are rocking and rolling, you're gonna have blind spots. And if anything, it's just that oil change, it's that checkup.
Yeah, the reality is that we have two people that were born into sin who bring in, let's just say I got married at 23. So I brought in 23 years of baggage in a big suitcase per se, and so did April. And after the honeymoon, we're basically just...
She didn't have no baggage. She was perfect.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, me too. My baggage was like a little knapsack. But you just walk in and you just lay everything out because your wife sees everything about you. You're good and bad. So that's a very vulnerable moment. We even talked about praying with our wife. It was hard to pray with them because they know everything about me.
Yeah.
So it's very common. We even spoke it in our vows. We said for better, for worse, for rich, for poor, sickness, health, till death do us part. Well, we forget about the tough times, the valleys, the trials, and those are very tough moments where you have to get real, where you have to get people involved, and that's where the church comes in. And church is people. And, that's what I would say is that if you're walking through something, man, one of the greatest things you could do is to go to one of your close friends because all of our baggage doesn't need to be shared with everybody. There is moments and places for that. But when you bring stuff out, into the light, darkness can't be found. I think that's where we start making these steps forward to where you're not defined. Yes, you may have walked through some major deals, but God can restore it. You are not too far removed.
Absolutely. Brian, put you on the spot. Yeah. If there's for any guys and anybody that's listening, girls too, whoever, if there's a challenge you can share with them, and especially since you're obviously dealing with marriages and stuff like that, if there's one thing that you could tell to the people that are listening, give us a challenge, give us encouragement, whatever it is, what would you say to these guys that are listening?
So and again, because of me being an introvert, my wife's completely opposite. So it's really comical now that, and understanding that's God's the, the overall, he designs us all, right?
Yep.
But I would say that, and you hear it, and we've, honestly, we haven't done a very good job, my wife and I, but it's something that, it's like, okay, we're going to, and that is date your spouse.
That's good. Date
your spouse and date them like you did when you were courting each other, whether it was in high school, in college, or whenever, because if you can go back to that and you can engage and just listen. That has been my biggest challenge. I'm just being honest. Is just listening, because I'm a fixer. Guys are fixer, right?
Oh,
Fixers.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm going to fix it fast.
I could tell
too.
all kinds of stories about that, but it's like, okay, Brandon, shut up. Just shut up. Don't. Yeah. And so just listen. If you're a guy, and for the gals, I'm gonna tell you, there is nothing I think that we as men really enjoy more than to just know that they respect us, right? Like they respect who we are, what we do. We don't have to always get pats on the back, but for the gals to verbalize that to the guys, what I appreciate, and it goes both ways, but for the gals to appreciate. Say I appreciate what you are, who you are as a godly leader, and leading our home and leading our children. That would be the probably the biggest thing is for gals to acknowledge and verbalize, and for guys to do the same. But listen.
That's good stuff.
Just listen to the YouTube little snippet that's called "It's Not About the Nail." Mm-hmm. So if you'll look on YouTube and type in "It's Not About the Nail," guys, you'll get a great laugh about it. Yeah. It's like 2 minutes long. And then my dad always says marriage is just one big date.
Look, I'll never forget this. Me and Jekka had just got engaged, or I was about to ask the big question or whatever. And I remember being with Brent one day, and his dad
at the old multi-purpose building. Yep.
Yeah, and we were sitting there talking, and we was talking to his dad about it, and he kind of looked at me and he goes, "Hey," 'cause I was nervous as could be. He said, "Hey, marriage is just one long date," and I kind of was like, "Man, that's a good thought. That's good stuff. Wisdom right there. That's true wisdom." Brandon, if there's, how do people get in touch with you, man? Because I know that you got some awesome services that you can give. So how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so just authenticman.1. And really not much of anything. It's just, but if you want to. Put your name, email in there, and touch base with me. Also fb.me if you want to reach out to me on Facebook. fb.me /Authentic Man Coach. You can drop me a message. I check if we're not friends, I constantly check that little box that they put it into. So I'm constantly checking that. So if you'd like to reach out, love to hear from you. Help you any way I can.
Yeah, I'll tag you in the video that plays on Facebook. Cool. I'll even put your website and stuff that on YouTube and link it to Facebook as well, just so people get in contact. Do you work with like men's group at churches and things like that? I'm sure you can really work anywhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I am in ministry, so the doors are open, and so God is leading us. Candy and I are actually starting our first marriage small group in the fall, man. So we're excited about that, and looking the opportunity to pour into younger couples, and even some that are closer to our age, but also for other churches. The church is my heart, and it's all the Big C Church, right?
That's right.
And to here to serve. Right. So I love men, love pouring into men, and so anything I can do to serve. I'm
Thank
here.
you, buddy. Before we let you go, we're gonna have like a little fast five here.
Okay.
All right.
It's been a minute.
Cool.
It's been a minute. Yeah.
All right, I'm down.
So we're just. I'm trying to think. Let's see. I think we normally favorite movie. It doesn't have to be like
No. Okay, so
we don't have to be like biblical stuff right now.
No. I'm trying to think of something. The easy answer is Shawshank Redemption.
That's a great movie.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the first one out of all the people we've had. I think that was the first Normally it's like
Yeah, it's an old
Shawshank's great.
It's old one, but that's kind of the first. I would say Top Gun, but I mean that's
I'm in.
I mean that's
I'm in with that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So yeah, Shawshank, Top Gun. Yeah,
is
they're
there
all
a
good.
Top Gun 2 coming out?
Supposedly,
It's supposed to have been. I've been waiting on it for a year and a half.
I have too. I remember seeing a trailer for it.
Dang
I
you,
guess
COVID.
It was COVID. It was
Yeah,
COVID.
right.
We all
If
blame
you
COVID.
could play a professional sport, what would it be?
Baseball.
Okay.
Baseball, there we go. If you go listen to episode 32, you'll
Yeah.
hear that.
Yeah.
Favorite place to eat?
I'm gonna say anything Mexican. You know.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty much all the same. There's some nicer ones, uptown or
I'm
whatever.
gonna steal your thunder. LeBron or Jordan?
So, that's a no-brainer, man.
He's got on the
Yeah.
Jordan
Yeah,
shoes.
I'm 44, so
You know,
I'll
we
tell you,
can-
it's Jordan all day long.
We can actually say Travis is on board now. Like, you know what? We don't have to say sorry,
Look,
Travis.
Travis Key, we had him on the episode. He's a
Yeah,
big
I love
LeBron
Travis.
fan. Yeah, you know Travis, and so I asked Travis on. He goes, well, of course it's LeBron. So we kind of had a debate, and so then after that, everybody that's a guest on the show, I asked, LeBron or Jordan, and so
it's Jordan all day and twice on
I'm
Sunday.
pretty sure it's been like 32 Jordans and
Yeah.
like one LeBron, which was. But
But now he converted.
last week Travis actually confessed
Yeah,
that Jordan is the goat.
it's,
So
well, one thing is that Jordan had the wisdom to stay out of the politics back
Yeah,
even in the
you're
day.
exactly right, yeah.
Of course, different eras, but
Sure,
you know, so thankfully, thank God.
that's
for that.
right. All right, last question. Biggest influence in your life?
I would have to say my pastor, Chris Hodges,
Yeah.
because
Good.
he's shown me how to pursue Jesus and a relationship with him, but he's also given me the most uncommon wisdom in just about every other area of my life. So several. I mean, I had Steve Gaines earlier on, but I'd say the biggest transformation would be from him.
That's awesome, man. Hey, thank you for joining us. I'm glad we got to connect, and I'm glad you came on the podcast, man. We really enjoyed you being on here. You shared a lot of incredible things. Obviously, some wisdom. Your testimony is powerful just to see what God's done in your life. So, so thank you, buddy.
I appreciate you guys, and again, for what you guys are doing to advance the kingdom. It all matters. So appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hey, thank you guys for listening and watching. There's More Podcast. If you want to connect with us, you can. Send us an email, there'smorepodcast@gmail.com. Also, look us up. Obviously, we're here on Facebook and on Instagram as well. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next time.